Get ready, cause it's about time for you to speak your mind. Super Secret Girls Club. Super Secret Girls Club. Super Secret Girls Club.
That's my favorite part.
That does not get old.
Welcome
That
to
does not
the
get old at all.
I'm
Super
glad.
Secret Girls Club, and today we got Brie, Sarah, Marketa. Woo!
Hey, Big Daddy Pump.
All right, rest of the show's you guys know. Go for
All
it.
right.
Thank you for the voice of God, Chris.
Beautiful. Oh. Jinx on. Anyone remember that? Cool. Well, folks, thanks for joining us this morning. We're here. We're going to talk about more gay shit.
We're here. We're queer. Get over it.
But specifically today, we're kind of going over some fun things, some maybe not so fun things about LGBTQ plus representation, some of our favorite heroes, some of our favorite characters, some folks we wish we had a bit more representation of over the years. So we're going to just dive into it.
Right
Is
on.
everyone ready? Are you stoked?
Mm-hmm.
You ready to talk about gay characters in the media?
All my depression during my teenage years has built me for this moment.
Precisely. Yeah, depression in the teenage years will become a theme at some point, probably. But I wanted to just kind of kick us off with a little bit of a very, very simple, very brief history timeline of queer representation in like modern media. So kind of typical Hollywood stuff where a lot of the things that we see today in the media, queer representation wise, come from some of these tropes in our history. So things like, for those that don't know, the Hays Code, which
The Hays Code.
so the Hays Code is why we saw queer coded things back in the day, because you couldn't actively portray queer behavior, queer people, relationships. It couldn't be acknowledged as good.
They were just roommates.
Yeah, they were just friends, or that's why all of the Disney villains from early Disney animation and into the 90s are all very queer coded, some more directly so, like Ursula, but even like Scar is very queer coded, Jafar, super queer coded. But like one of the original ones that's super queer coded is the evil queen from Snow White. So that is where it's like
Really?
in the Hays Code. She is like she's jealous of someone's like very intense femininity, which is a trope for many like lesbians at the time, that they were not very feminine, and she lives alone. She is in a powerful position that most men would be in.
Everyone hates her for it.
Exactly. And she's evil.
But she's like...
But also very queer coded, and like just the way she carries herself, the way she like flows through that castle with that cape just going around. Like she has her own plays, honestly. Sounds
Snarky
amazing.
best friend.
Snarky best friend. Yes.
The mirror
Yeah.
is her like
Yes,
snarky best friend.
very that.
I did not realize, because I was thinking the first thing when you said Hays Code, and it always pops in my mind, was Kim from the Powerpuff Girls, because that was my queen for a while.
So that what happened was, because of the Hays Code, which was like really in the 1930s, we started to get these tropes of villains. And so in some of the media that we consumed in the 90s and early 2000s, that's why you see characters like that, because they're like, oh yeah, remember how like gay Disney villains were? How fun was that? And because the queer community tended to resonate with it, because it was campy as all get out.
And it was looks on looks on looks.
And not that all queer people are campy, but they are the largest consumers of camp type content. And so that's why you see someone like him. You also see like drag performers doing that. But
what was that one demon? Was it Cat and Dog too?
I think so. I'm
He had, like,
not
the
super
round
familiar.
butt.
You're thinking of cow and chicken.
Cow and chicken.
Cow and chicken. Oh my gosh. I will get to Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network in a minute. So I've got a bone to pick with some of these networks, okay?
Tell him, Professor Sarah.
But so some of the things that I just like wanted to highlight in some of the like pop culture timelines is some of the like first queer kisses we started to see on television in the 90s, some of the characters that we started to see actively portraying queer people. Let me see if I can find the one that I really wanted. Some of the earlier ones, obviously there was some tricky stuff in the 70s and 80s because of the AIDS crisis, so people were really hesitant to portray queer characters in media at all, and they were vilified in many, many ways. Also, for a lot of places, it was still illegal to be a queer person at those times. So not only did you have things like the Hays Code, in the U.S. and across the world, like there were many places you could not be a queer person
Still can't.
without going to jail.
Do we know why it's named Hays Code?
It was like William H. Hayes was the person that pushed it forward, and it spurred...
Was he gay?
Because
it sounds like he was gay.
No, well, who knows? He was a Jesuit and a Catholic, so give it up for the Catholic Church yet again.
That doesn't
really
mean
like
anything.
doing it for the queer community.
There's still about like over 70 countries that you will be beheaded for being gay currently.
True.
So that is,
That is correct.
Religion.
Not
Yay.
this one. Not this one. No. I was very confused. Yeah, not this particular one. But so I just wanted to talk about like some of these, like in the 70s we had like some TV movies where we had that certain summer, November 1972, Martin Sheen, who many people are familiar with, and Hal Holbrook were both big name stars that played male lovers. It was one of the first movies to deal with the subject of homosexuality sympathetically, which progress, okay? We started to see some of those types of roles come into play. We started to see more TV representation, more movie representation, but all very like, okay, they're a couple, but we don't really talk about it. Or yes, maybe they're a queer person, but you don't ever actually see them being queer or doing queer things. Very downplayed to their actual identity. We start to see more in the 90s. One of my favorites on this timeline that I have is an IKEA ad that ran in 1994 that was showing two men shopping for furniture together. And this was the first TV commercial ever featuring an ordinary gay couple.
Was it in the U.S. or?
I think it was in the U.S., yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
94?
Which is, 1994. Amazing.
That's cool.
I think my parents met in that year.
I was un baby at the time. But so many of those moments growing up, like again in the 90s, one of the first like on-screen male kisses, like on the show Will and Grace, that was a huge deal. It was a massive deal. But then, like, after the 90s, we kind of didn't see as much, like, especially after what happened to Ellen DeGeneres when she came out on her show and then was just blackballed by the industry.
Immediately.
So one of the things that we have seen, though, over the years is a lot of straight actors playing queer characters and being lauded for it, while people that are actually queer come out and are then vilified and blackballed in the industry for it. So my like question when we're kind of talking about like the history and growing representation is how do we feel about straight actors playing queer characters? How do we, at least in today's time, should we have more queer people playing queer characters, or is there room for both?
I mean, there's always been room for both. If we really want to put it into that perspective, I find it odd if it's not a role that it's not inherently making predatory or demonizing. Because truly, people being predatory does not stop at at your sexuality. Regardless of sexuality, if you trash, you trash, and that is unfortunately the rules. it is off-putting when it's like, seeing like a straight guy play a trans woman, and it's like, that's not, no, all of it just feels wrong. However, one thing that I do love is Neil Patrick Harris playing so many straight characters. It makes me love him so much.
Other way.
I'm like, yes. I'm like,
there
turn
are
it
so
on
many
a dime.
people to this day that do not know that he is a gay man,
and a wonderful father to his children. I love him so much. Very well trained. Even in what was I just saw him in when Gone Girl, because I never watched it properly, and I blew my mind. I said, Neil Patrick Harris is in this, and Josh was like, yeah, and I was like, and then he like, well, I'm not gonna spoil it, but I was like, oh my gosh, it was so good. He played like such a good psychopath. Like, I enjoyed it a lot. What about you, Marketa?
So,
question. Bouncing on them desk, y'all.
Sorry
about that.
My vibrations.
Question about Schitt's Creek is Dan Levi. Is it Levi?
Dan Levy.
Yeah. Is he
is a queer person. I don't know.
Is he pansexual? Because he was
something like that.
He was a pansexual character in the show.
Correct.
But I think that I've read that he was not. That he's like not pansexual in real life.
I don't know if he identifies as pansexual in real life or just a gay man. I'm not. I could not tell you.
Can you check, Chris?
Yeah, Google it.
Because truly,
all right, Chris is currently checking.
I think that it's about how it's done. You know, because it can be. The representation obviously should be done as best as possible. So if you can find an actor that is already, a true representation of the character, you should probably hire that actor.
You know what? I don't.
But sometimes it does work out, and it works out just fine, just like as you mentioned. Yeah. But
I think there's a fine line. I think when you're talking about sexuality, it's more fluid. I think when you're talking about gender identity, I think it absolutely needs to be someone of that population. I also want to see, I saw in the comments when someone noticed my disdain for Nickelodeon, talking about Korasami. We will get there. Let me tell you, this podcast is mostly an excuse for me to talk about Korasami, okay?
But truly with that, to be honest, and it's when it comes to sexuality and showing a person of that sexuality, my biggest thing, and the only reason I'm not being like, make sure someone of that sexuality is there, it's more so, an actor's an actor, and for that, an actor being for both genders, or all the genders. And I don't mind that if it is a good writing. The main thing that my gripe would be, is it poor writing? Are you using this like as a weapon? Is this his most defining character? Because I love a good superhero story when they go home and you find out this is just their partner. And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly it. However,
like the normalization of it.
Exactly that. However, when it becomes to essentially gender identity, I'm like, hey, so you already know where that's very underrepresented, and we need that representation for that. I don't need to see that unless it's like a good Tu Wong Fu. I love
that movie.
I love that movie because they just did it correctly and no one made it weird. Yes. And Wesley Snipes.
I have no idea.
Okay. This is okay.
Thank you.
This is some queer history you should know about. So, Tu Wong Fu, thanks for everything, Julie Newmar, is a somewhat problematic but also delightful film that I watched as a child, where Patrick Swayze, Wesley Snipes, and I cannot remember the other actor's name. He's been in a Thank you.
Who's the most beautiful drag queen?
Yeah, they all play drag queens that go on this journey because they win a drag competition and they're going across the country to compete in the finals of this drag competition.
That's awesome.
But they decide to rent a car or buy a car to go there. Big mistake. They buy one that's more flashy just for style than it's actually going to get them there. They get to the middle of nowhere, car breaks down, and they're in a small town that desperately needs an uplift. It does. The people just need it. Problem is, this town has been stuck in their ways for so long.
They're
They've
very
got
homophobic.
homophobia. They've got some abuse. And the women in this town, they really need a feminine touch from the drag queens that show up.
To bring them up there.
And they turn this town around.
That's awesome.
They get people out of abusive situations. They like get like cute little date situations. They get this old lady that doesn't say any words to talk about movies and stuff. It is a lovely film. There are some critiques of it and how they talk about gender, just because it's like they're drag queens, but then they never really get out of drag.
But because they can't, because if they came to the town as drag queens, if they find out that they're men, they're like, we're gonna die here, so they stay in drag the entire time. And one of them looks very, very very, very fish, we would say. Because if someone says you're fish, you look very feminine. And he there's a part where a local gentleman falls in love with him, and then he was like, I'm queen, like, ooh. And so that's a good story, and I don't want to finish the ending, but it's a really good movie, and I would love to watch you react to it.
But that being said, so that movie came out, in the 90s, and that was one of, like, a handful of movies that were, like, somewhat mainstream. So there's been more representation, like, in TV, but when we talk about, and that's what I kind of want to get into next, when we talk about, like, mainstream franchises, things like Disney and Marvel and channels like Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network and all these places that create content that is a lot of people's formative experiences, there is still so much lacking, and a lot of that comes from studios. A lot of it comes from not having the right people in the writer's room. A lot of it comes from just we're used to so many queer tropes in media that they continue.
And I think that also goes to the representation, because it's not just about the actors playing whatever. Actors are actors. It's their job to play whatever role they're in. I mean, it would be better if they were actually a true representation of that character. But even if they're not, it's fine. It really is much more about how the character is written. So you really need representation in the behind the scenes.
Speaking about writing, because unleash the Kraken, Sarah, because the queer bi experience is such Cora. When I'm reading it, watching it, I felt so seen. I was like, yes. And the fact that the biggest trope that I don't think people realize is a trope, it's honestly just the triangle that happens, is meeting your girlfriend through your ex-boyfriend.
Oh, honestly, too real.
That was when they had that. I was like, ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Very true. So one of the things I want to talk about in Korasami is one of the like big examples that we're all pretty familiar with, is this growing representation that we're seeing in this type of content. But the way it has been handled, at least in recent years, is kind of limited. And my sort of like question is this progress or is it placation? Because, and the reason I ask that is because we're getting these little like snippets, these little like blink and you miss it moments, because in at least in American society and a lot of Western society now, it is more acceptable to be a queer person. It's no longer illegal in a lot of places. It's more common to see those types of characters in TV and in your everyday lives. People feel more comfortable coming out and talking about their queerness. But there is still a lot of hesitation to have honest queer storylines in like superhero type content.
Are you shocked by
what do
this?
we think? No.
Because the biggest thing, remember in Star Trek when they had the first interracial kiss and people were sending death threats to the studio?
Exactly.
I feel like it's just the same pace. And now it's more, since we have people realize first their buying power and chosen families or something things, and so much easier access to therapy to realize, hey, just cut out these toxic people. When people try to buck at studios, you also have a overwhelm of support of being like, no, yes, I need this. I'm so happy my kids can go and see two moms as they have two moms in a cartoon, or two fathers, or a blended family, and or having co-parenting step-parents.
Like the dads in She-Ra.
Yes.
They're so cute. I love that show.
And it doesn't need to be overwhelming. I feel like the straight agenda is very strong, and people who have not seen it before, any hint of it, they're like, they're shoving it down our throats, and really, it's not even widely spread. You have to hunt for it.
It's just you haven't seen it before, and now you feel like you're forced to watch it.
Yes.
But all you are supposed to do is just reckon with the existence of these people.
Yeah.
And like you just have to accept that they exist.
They're here in suburbia. Yes, there's two
And
moms.
not
Yes,
leaving.
there's two dads.
Yeah.
And they're just parents.
Yeah.
That is it. That's the full stop of it. And even just not parenting, they're people dating, and this is the person that they're dating. It's not even
well, and I think what's happening with a lot of these moments, so specifically what happened with Korosami, because I will keep coming back to that, is
Rep them.
So the writers had good intentions. They were building up that relationship to become a romantic relationship, and you can see it throughout that last season of the show. Now that the comics have come out, they've like fully confirmed it, but when this show was originally airing on Nickelodeon, they were building it up, and so anyone that maybe comes from that experience could see those moments to be like, yes, absolutely, like this is like they're gonna be a couple. I can see that. They're writing letters. Like this is sapphic.
Oh
AF.
my God,
like,
yes.
We know this is happening. But then we get to the finale of that season and they're walking away together. Like spoilers to anyone that hasn't seen it. But everyone that kind of knew that they were becoming a couple assumed that they would like fully embrace and kiss at some point, and they walk away holding hands. What happened was they were supposed to kiss. But months before that, Disney had released, I can't remember what the name of it was, maybe someone in the comments can tell us, but there was another animated show or movie that came out that included a gay kiss between two characters, and Disney was just like, this is not the right word to use, but railed with homophobia to the point that they backtracked quite a bit. Nickelodeon producers in the studio found out about it and made them edit the ending, made them cut it because they were concerned about getting like complaints to the nth degree.
That's fucked up.
And so they did not continue moving it forward. I'm hoping that with the new Avatar Studios, they've learned that like you can actually have these. So they tell all of these queer storylines in the comics now and in the books. And I'm hoping that maybe we see that in some of the new shows coming out. We're not getting it from the live action. Sorry, guys.
Do you think it's weird that like Nickelodeon's so pro pride though, and it was off?
Oh well, yeah, because it's marketable now. So that's why you see all these big companies that during June they change all their social media profiles. They like Disney Plus has like queer stories and whatnot like everywhere on there, but they don't really follow through. Like they won't confirm that like Luca is like a queer allegory, even though it is. But like argue as you will, like yes, friendship, but like okay. But they won't ever confirm anything like that, regardless of what the writer's intentions were. Like they do not care. And I think one of the things that I mentioned is those blink and you miss it moments. And when we're talking about studios editing things and the difference between progress and placation, specifically like those moments, the lesbian kiss at the end of the last Star Wars, the like gay male couple walking together in Star Trek, the lesbian like Amazons from Wonder Woman, like when the one dies and she like wails over her, like the queer lady community was like, oh, they're a couple and she just lost her lover. Like, but that's what everyone interprets. That's the thing.
Because I thought they were just friends.
Well, I will get into that in a moment because that's another issue. But I think with some of those moments, like the lesbian kiss and the couple, big studios know that when they move those movies to different countries where it's not acceptable, they can pull that clip out really easily, or they can switch it with a different shot. And they did that with the lesbian kiss in Singapore. They removed it from theaters so they didn't see that part of the film. And I think they do it so that they can continue to be marketable in places that continue to perpetuate homophobia while they can placate audiences elsewhere. And it is, so that's why some of these big places, I'm like, it's not really progress. It is just placation because you can make some of it marketable. You can give us this like little crumble and you should be happy with that. You should be satisfied.
This is getting ahead, but the reason why I died laughing is reading your notes. It says turf in chief.
Oh yeah, well,
JK Rowling.
Okay. So again, talking about some characters that maybe were interpreted as queer, but were not canonically queer, or like we don't talk about their relationships, but they have some traits that viewers or readers think maybe there's something here. And then we've had some instances like Turf in Chief J.K. Rowling retroactively confirming that a character is gay when they had no intention of making them that way.
Sarah, could you please explain what TERFs are for all of us straights?
Oh, okay. So a TERF is
transphobic,
very radical feminist.
all I hear is transphobic ass.
So many, it's a lot of transphobic older white ladies, honestly.
But like, I love the gays, but this, and then it's any but. TERF.
Well, and they also have this like very problematic view that trans women are not women, and that trans women are actively harming the feminist movement
and predatory
by taking away like natural womanhood, and it's incredibly problematic. It's incredibly hurtful, and J.K. Rowling doubles down on it all the time. Just recently she did on Twitter. It's like, get off Twitter, JK. Like you're not helping yourself, baby.
This reminds me of the like the bathroom discussions in schools, and how everybody's worried that a man, end quote, man is going to see someone's vagina. Like, I've never seen a vagina in the bathroom. There's doors.
Yeah.
There's stalls over here.
There's privacy.
And also,
they're not going that high.
I don't understand.
Why do people think they're so special? That's what really throws me off, especially about Americans. I'm like, hey, we can just need to accept that you're not special enough. No one's going to go and go over the river and through the woods trying to see you pee. There's porn categories for that. I'm not going to go and try to hunt in a bathroom. Though predators are real, it's just so irritating that it's there. And one of my close friends, she was...
I don't want to see anybody's body parts.
recently transitioned, and then that was like literally our school, since they already have unisex bathrooms, literally no one cared. Like it was just so smooth. It was beautiful. They're like, oh, bet, okay. Yeah. Still going to the bathroom together. Like it was no big deal. Nothing had happened. That has been reported on our campus, because it was very much just like, I'm here to pee, you're here to pee, we're here to pee. Let's go.
Yeah. But I do want to talk about some of the good things we are seeing in queer representation. There are some really great shows and really great characters and storylines that have started to come out in the last, like, honestly, like 5-ish years or so. And we're starting to get some of more representation in some of those bigger franchises, like confirmed bisexual Loki, like sent me. Oh my gosh.
Which one's bisexual? Is it just all of him?
They're all. So that's the thing too, I will say, about some of these like studios that pull from comics as their material, like the MCU. Like, let me tell you, Marvel Comics are so gay. Oh my gosh, they're so gay. Like, in the best way. It's amazing. Exactly. So that's why it's like easy to have a Loki variant that is Sylvie. Like,
because he's
Loki
supposed to
change, but like whatever, because they're literally shape shifting. It's whatever feels right in the moment. So there are moments in the comics that a female presenting Loki walks into Odin, and Odin's like, "Sup, Loki?" Like, no one cares. They're just like, this makes sense.
Oh, I'm digging it. My whole thing is, I don't think Loki's bisexual. I think he just wants to have sex with himself. And I'm not against that. But like, the only time we see him actually be like, I like someone, is himself. And am I mad? No.
Yeah.
But does that
I don't know, but there was that moment
Loki?
between, I mean, Tom Hiddleston and Owen Wilson. There's some tension there. That hug.
I could see
I'm
that.
pushing it. I am. But
I don't know. I could see them like having like him wanting to finagle people, but the only time we've seen Loki have a partial boner was for himself. And I'm just saying, I don't think it's cheating if you have coitus with yourself.
Yeah.
But
But I am curious what people think, though, because so much of the source material is very gay. Do we think we're going to get more queer storylines in stage 4? Like, we're getting a multiverse. Give us a gay couple, you know? Like, you can break a sacred timeline. You can do all kinds of crazy stuff. Like, live your truth. What are your thoughts? Anybody? Do you think?
I mean, I thought they tried to make Captain Marvel gay. It was like very heavy-handed.
Again, queer coded. So
Like-
that we get so many moments like that where the communities, like folks that understand or have like felt those feelings are like, that is a queer relationship for sure. They were like raising a family together. But then there are other people watching it that are like, no, they're just really good friends. But then we never get any sort of confirmation. And one thing I had earlier in my notes that I do want to mention is like, we see so many queer coded characters, and we see that because so many queer people grew up starved for representation of any kind, that like we have to create it in the subtleties of character traits and dialogue and interactions, like in the way someone looked a little longingly at someone, we're like, oh, gay, like
I don't know, I don't care what you tell me, I ship Tony Stark and Steve Rogers hard.
that's America's ass.
That is,
and Tony's.
oh, you knew as soon as we saw that. I was like, oh no, they
I think Tony's just like too unfortunately straight.
Tony
though.
is so
I think he's pan. Are you really? I think that there's some nights in Vegas
Again.
that he wouldn't enjoyed all of the allotments the humans have
This
to
is
offer.
the fun thing about fictional characters is that we can kind of choose our own adventures with them. This is why fan fiction exists.
So
And good
that
fan
is,
fiction.
so I did want to come back a little bit to Kurosami, because
Always.
my experience with watching the finale was extremely different from you two, probably the rest of the world, because I don't think I've seen Frozen before I saw Kurosami ending. And so for me, as a straight person who has thoroughly enjoyed being a single woman, and while all of my other friends were in relationships and like having kids and all that stuff, I saw, Korra ending her relationship and then just developing a friendship with Asami, and then them leaving into the spirit world as like, yes, independent women doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So actually, I felt represented. And then when I found out that it was actually coded, queerness, and then I was like, interesting, but I didn't see that at all.
Yeah.
And I think that now, if I've only seen Korra once, I think if I went back and rewatched, I would probably see the hints that you guys were seeing, but I personally didn't see them because I don't have the life experience.
Yeah. So if they had ended that like they were intending to, and they had kissed,
I don't know what I would do if I saw that.
Yeah.
Like
because
I was like,
it would have been like go back in the timeline, remembering all of the moments. You're like, oh
Yeah.
wait,
Yeah.
this was okay. This
Time
was
warp.
maybe more. Oh my gosh, that is also just like, we're talking a lot about like queer, like women loving women type representation, and that is sort of a commonality in the like. Are they just friends, or like, is this girl just being nice to me, or is she flirting with me?
Yes.
So having that sort of interpretation of it, I think, is actually really great representation. They really did a good job of being authentic to that kind of dynamic.
Because what made me focus on and understand what people wrote it off when she was like, everyone was mad that Korra wasn't sending anyone else letters.
Yeah.
And seeing how close she was to other people. She wasn't even sending her anybody from the Air Temple, nobody. It was just Asami. And I was like, okay, I understand that she doesn't have many female friends. However, that was the moment for me when I was like, they're gonna date. Like it was the dating confirmed. Like this would be a huge thing. And I enjoyed it though, because I think like a lot of relationships are supposed to bloom as such.
Yeah.
And so what I think actually hinders a lot of representation for queer men is that friendships aren't shown for men in that same fashion. Like, you don't see the nurturing of each other. You don't see that. Yes, with my female friends, we'll cuddle and we know that this is comfort and platonic comfort. And the discussion of that is just discussion. You're like, hey, we're chilling out. But then there's one thing that happens. You're like, hey, Are we feeling each other or are we friends? And then there's like,
Yeah.
oh, we're friends. Okay, you bet. Okay, high five.
Yeah.
Boop, boop. Or it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I am the gay. Are you also the gay? And then you just usurp and never leave each other's homes again.
Yeah, there is more leeway for women to sort of be affectionate in that way. And I think it's also just the way that many women, at least in our society, are raised to be more affectionate and more communicative with each other in those ways. But while we're talking about sort of the male perspective that we are obviously so well versed in, but something that happens a lot is people online shipping characters that are not either canonically gay or whatnot.
I
like,
do that.
Which we enjoy, and they're like, when they pull from those moments that the queer community is like, oh, that was a gay moment for sure. Thinking of the Falcon, Captain America, and the Winter Soldier.
Oh yeah, because that there was something that was done in the past because that makes no sense.
Well, and so there's some like discussion on. People are like, oh yeah, Bucky Barnes, and like they have such a like potentially romantic type relationship, but then
because he wrote so hard for Bucky.
Yes, but the actor, I'm blanking on his name.
Oh, Stan Sebastian.
No, the actor that plays Sam Wilson, that plays the Falcon.
Anthony Mackie.
Yes, correct. Yes. Oh my gosh, blanking on his name right now.
Love their relationship.
He came out and said that like their relationship is very platonic, like as characters, and that I can't remember exactly what he said, but it was something along the lines of like we need to have space for platonic male relationships that are intimate like this. Where is the fine line between like craving that representation and like shipping them just like jokingly online or on Twitter and creating space for platonic male affection? Like how do you think we balance those in our society?
I think they did it really well for them. To be honest, I only like shipping them because I love fan fiction, and like Steve Rogers and Bucky, so good. The Tony Stark, and the Steve Rogers is such a good ship, and the community has done so well on producing fan fiction for that. But truly, I think that was the best time, and especially when you even see Anthony Mackie and Stan Sebastian in so many press junkets, and the reason they put them together is because they have a wonderful relationship. And
they've got good chemistry, platonic or not, you know?
Yeah,
they do.
And so for their relationship, and I do enjoy that because you see Steve Rogers and Bucky re-meet each other, and they go through some traumatic things, and then you see them blossom and talk through that. That was very well done. Yes. I do love Steve Rogers and Tony Stark, because I believe in the MCU they're not gay for each other, but like that's America's ass. Like I love that because when you have some friends and you know that they're secure with each other, you can play like that, and it's not something. I know people who will get hot and heavy and like want to fight you, and you're like, we're just friends, and everyone has butts, and I can't, like, why can't you compliment your male friend on their physique? You're friends. You're supposed to help gas each other up. That's why you select each other. I think it's either we get shown like the male like mafia relationship of we're family and that's why we do, and or Italians and they're like, oh, that's just what Italians do. You don't typically see that in American media, and I think they did a really good job for that because I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I think my favorite representation or portrayal of a blooming gay relationship is from Scam, which is why I'm wearing this t-shirt.
Oh, I love that.
I think that was so well done from like, so there's this gay character who has real hard time coming out.
Yeah.
And he's basically trying to date his girl best friend. Yeah. Just so that people don't think that he's gay. And then he moves from her to try and date this girl that his very boyish features. She has short hair, and so he's kind of like trying to hang out with her and see if that's gonna do it for him, but it's just not happening. And then he's just kind of has to face the fact that he's gay and he has to tell his friends, and he like goes tell his best friend first, and it's just that was my favorite scene because it's such a normal conversation that they have.
They're like, yeah, cool, bro.
And he's just like, so like, you don't find me attractive? Like, I'm not attractive?
Yeah, but they're like joking. Oh, that was such
so
a good
funny.
moment.
Yeah, and then there's another one. My second favorite moment that I love is when this character talks to another character who is very, very openly homosexual, and he confronts him about like listen, I'm gay, but I'm not that kind of gay. I'm not like you gay.
Yeah,
You
and
know,
they're
not flashy.
Many different kinds.
Yeah,
Yes.
and this guy just like roasts him. Is like, just because I'm flashy or like doesn't mean that I'm less than you.
Yeah.
And because there's
That's
this
misogyny,
like
baby.
Yes.
yeah, so they
Internalized.
they like really go into nuances of like
Yeah.
what it's like to be gay, what are the different like types of like how do you live your existence as being a gay male.
Yes.
It's so well done.
I think the biggest problem, especially with media, a lot when they put in the gay character, they made him very hyper feminine, and that's not a bad thing. I feel like anything
it's stereotypical.
anything associated with women is viewed as lesser. So if you do any mannerisms that people would assume that a woman would do, you're already seen as less than, which is very unfortunate and very strong within the homosexual community, and also with lesbians, because then there's the hyper femme, and they're like, oh, but are you gay? That you get called lugs, which is a lesbian until graduation, which is very annoying. To have to then curse out your fellow countrymen in a gay bar. It's just very unfortunate, and it speaks to internalized misogyny, but I do appreciate that people are starting to get with it, that gay is not a monolith.
Yeah.
And it's just a part of your part of you. And I feel like people who try to say that like, it's, oh no, you guys are just so focused on sex and da 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 da. I'm like, yes, there are different mannerisms for the community that we held on to, but it is because people who have been in position, who have never had to have their identity go against the grain of society, are mind blown and I feel like they hyperfixate more on sexuality than we do, because we're just trying to find other people.
Over sexualized in general.
Yes.
But I like the point that you both made about that the queer community is not a monolith. Being a queer person in any of your varying identities is not a monolith. You can fall under, you can be part of the alphabet mafia, whatever, but you can be very different than many of the people that are in that community. And I think when we're talking about increasing LGBTQ plus representation, especially in mainstream media, there needs to be space to show the variety. So we see that platonic friendship can happen, but we also see that people that maybe aren't as stereotypically perceived as queer can have queer identities and happy and healthy normal relationships like everyone else, and that it doesn't have to be like a huge talking point. It can just be part of your storyline, and it's just about being authentic and writing authentic characters that are real whole people, and part of that wholeness is someone's queerness and their relationships to who they are with romantically and platonically. And I'm hoping that we see more of that in mainstream media moving forward. Like, we see it a lot more in TV. We see it a lot more
Netflix.
in like indie films, and
Bring back Sense8.
All
Bring
of that.
back.
Like,
Oh my God.
Okay, that's another thing though. And you can tell me all about Sense8, because that is another issue that we don't really have a whole lot of time to get into this morning. But we get these shows that have amazing representation that like on Netflix and other platforms like that the queer community and even the rest of society really enjoy, that are doing a good job. And then we get a season or two and it's gone.
And it's so irritating. And I do agree fully when you say like just have people live their lives and showcase their sexuality is not all theirs. However, there is an aspect because you're part of the community. There is a within community, and I do appreciate shows that do that.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm gay, but that also means I jump through a very straight space and a very gay space, and I think TikTok's hilarious for showcasing like hanging out with your straight friends, and it's like a cesspool, and then you're hanging out with your gay friends, and everyone's like, yeah, like it's crazy. Yeah. Everyone's in glitter, and you do what you want, and especially with Sense8. So Josh and I, and hey boo, I see you. What's up, baby? How are you doing, Spidey? We were watching Sense8, and there's a lot of sex scenes. And for me, I was just happy because I was like, finally. Yeah. And they're not bad sex scenes. And I'm like, this is not a big deal for me, but it was a good representation. But I can feel him becoming visibly uncomfortable. He's watching it to be like, I'm a good ally, which I do appreciate. But shows like that, I feel very seen, and I enjoy how when Sense8 really showed how fluid these 8 people are to each other. And then we did have there was a homophobic actor who's not in the second season, and that's why they changed it. Did you know that?
No, I have not watched the show. I will be honest. I will be honest. I have not seen it. I just know that it didn't last.
It's sci-fi queerness, and you really should watch it because it's a really good show. But I do appreciate, because a lot of the people, just to give you a rundown, 8 people are connected, and there's times where people can like put their own soul in your body, so you could switch places. So one person like is a really good fighter, and one person's in trouble, and they're like, help me, and she's like, bet, go ahead, I got this, and they switch, and she lays down the hammer. And the sex scenes it turns into, you can feel someone else having sex, and not all of them share the same sexuality. So there's one woman who's very religious, and she gets thrown into this other person's body, and it's another woman, and she's like, oh, we're doing this now? Okay. And then after a while, everyone's like, oh, sex is sex. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. We're all feeling this together. This is what it feels like. I understand for my person, this is the person that I love, but I get it. And I really much enjoyed that, because it's really all it is.
Yeah.
I don't think we can end this podcast without mentioning Steven Universe.
Yes. Thank you.
Well, I mean, but also, I've got your Adventure Time pulled up, so
oh yes.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just that's just an example of many, because we're thankfully going to hopefully a new era where the acceptance and representation is done better and more openly, and the studios are not sketchy about it.
The more you see characters like this in the media that you consume regularly, the more you normalize, you understand, because for a lot of people, maybe they haven't met another queer person or a queer person period, but they watch Adventure Time and they see these characters like, oh, this is like just how people live their lives. And I'm really glad you brought that up, because I am just so excited to see shows like this, like Adventure Time, Steven Universe, like even She-Ra come out that are for like younger audiences, but older people do enjoy them as well. And like I would have killed to have shows like this when I was growing up, because even if you go back to some shows in like the 2000s, they are very homophobic, so problematic in so many ways.
I can't watch so many movies because that's funny to be like, I love this movie, and I'll watch it and I'm like, why?
Yeah.
I'm like, I actively like Ace Ventura. I like literally cannot.
No, honestly, old episodes of Sex and the City, Carrie Bradshaw, homophobic as all get out.
All of them.
All get out.
And also, real quick, because I saw us in the chat, Cora and Asami are made for each other, and Asami could not do better. She did her best, and they're both doing their best together. So don't you ever put down Cora again, because I will come and find you.
Yeah,
Thank
we feel
you.
quite strongly about Cora Asami.
That makes sense.
Mako this entire podcast
didn't deserve any of them. If you want to really put it out there, maybe Bolin,
oh,
but not even. Yeah, because Bolin is the man. Like I love Bolin.
Bolin is a sweet himbo.
Yes, he is a very sweet himbo. And Cora and Asami with their smarts, they go brains and brawn. Yes, no Cora hate. Thank you.
Yeah, we will.
Always
shout outs to Bolin. Him in that cute little outfit when he was in the movie set.
Nuktuk got everything.
Yes, Nuktuk.
He got a little big and everything. I'm like, oh, okay. Little candy for the girls. Okay.
I love
and
that.
the gals and the gays. That's it.
All of that to say that Bolin is adorable, but
and
we are here for Korasami, and we are here for all of the continuing representation that we're seeing in media. And as much as I can get irritated and critique some things that come out, that's, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. That is normal to see something and be able to critique it, that's part of the world we live in. But I am excited to just see so much of this growth in these amazing characters.
Yeah.
And Kiyoshi books, like really,
Oh,
they
read
do
'em,
Kiyoshi,
baby.
If you guys haven't read it, that's a very good book, especially for the community. And
If Avatar Studios does not give me a Kiyoshi TV show or movie of some kind, I will lose my mind.
I
Okay?
just want to see Renki and her have their first fight, and because they're just very headstrong people, I think it'd be the funniest thing.
Also, Kiyoshi lived for like 200 years,
Exactly.
so there
We
is
have
so
so
much
much.
content there with Kiyoshi, and Kiyoshi is just one scene. Like, you can do
Yeah.
so much, Avatar Studios,
Thank you.
while y'all are digging through the bin of stuff
Okay.
we already seen. You could be going hard on
Send
some
this to
real
Avatar
shit.
Studios. We need Kiyoshi. We need
yes.
all of the storylines, and we need it to be gay.
I want the next Earthbender because Earth is on the next cycle of avatars, right?
After water.
After because it's yes, water.
Did
Yes.
Korra end the cycle though?
No, she restarted it
Oh,
because
yes, she
it
did.
restarts
Yeah.
every few years because of the battles. I just need the next Earthbender. Here's the thing. I need him to go into the spirit world, connect that ish together, and I need Kiyoshi to come down from the heavens and just be like, "You are gay, my child."
Okay.
And you're like, "What?" And she's like, "This was my life," and then just showcase everything she did with Renki.
Yeah.
But it was really good. I enjoyed that character. They didn't make it her true identity. It was really just much of her blossoming
Yeah.
young love, and that I was really happy to read those books.
Should we leave with like a very Avatar focused question, but
Yes.
are all avatars
A little?
pansexual?
They have to be.
Because it's like Sense 8, because like, you have all the past memories, so you just have to be like sexuality is sexuality.
Aren't they all?
But then one of them was a hoe, but he just knew he liked women a bit more. He was like,
Yeah, it's okay.
I'm digging it. But that was like the third waterbender
Live
is when he
your
died. Right. Live your truth. But I think there has to be a sprinkle of it. They're not the norm. And they don't
Yeah.
have to
Definitely.
be. But also, is it the norm, or because especially we're talking from a very Western perspective, like
Yeah.
for Korea example, it is very normal to have grown men holding hands. It's
Yeah.
very normal to have as a guy, especially in school, sitting on your friend's lap who is also
Yeah.
a guy, and there's no sexuality with that. And so I'm thinking, especially because they pull from a lot of more Eastern cultures, is it just them being human?
I don't know.
Being the full scope of being human, because I feel like we in the Western
I
try
don't know.
to
That Kiyoshi
make
book is gay.
it's very, but they
So-
try to make it such a rigid thing to make being heterosexual like the only thing, when really
Yeah.
around the world people realize we're not
Yeah.
the same, and we're a bunch of animals, and animals don't always identify with that as well. There's always
much more
nuance.
nuance than we give ourselves and that we give characters and other people in this world. So I think everyone has the opportunity to explore their sexuality and whatever makes them happy and fulfilled. And if that is more strictly heterosexual, like, good on you.
No.
If that is not, live your truth.
Yes.
And I think they're all pansexual because you got those past lives, baby. And maybe we'll see more pansexual avatars in the future. More
Yeah, I was
queer
demisexual.
superheroes. I'm excited for it.
Yeah.
Huh.
Oh, do we want to play this game?
I mean,
We talked about a lot of characters.
we did.
Is it gay or not? Is that the game?
Yeah, I don't have any sort of like official thing. This is sort of just, is this character gay in my brain? So we've already kind of gone over some of them, but MCU Bucky Barnes, gay or straight? Or queer or straight?
No, hard ally. Hard ally.
Okay.
Solid ally.
Okay.
Honestly, Bucky strikes me as somebody so deeply depressed and fucked up that he might just be asexual and not interested in this type of shit at all.
So yes, in the community, yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. Very
Yeah.
much, he would be the one. I feel like he would have sex, but it's just not his end goal. I'm not expecting Bucky to be married.
yeah.
Bucky and Sam's sister Sarah were sharing some smiles
that's true.
that were saying
Oh,
a
yeah, I
little bit
was
more
shipping
than
that.
like a plutonic type of smile. It was a, hey, maybe we can go get a
Yes.
coffee later.
Okay.
Or maybe they were having
Honestly,
friendships.
I would like that.
Because why don't we have more cross-gender friendships? Because apparently the most annoying thing is you can't be friends with a lot of men
So
because
silly.
they're all secretly trying to
Yep.
fuck you. And I was just hoping that in this world we can just have like good friendships
Just
with a
pals.
man who does not, right?
Yeah.
Who does not have to identify within the community for me to be safe
Yeah.
with. or
Okay,
feel safe
next
with.
one. We're sticking with the MCU. In our own imaginary world, everyone's favorite synthezoid, Vision. Straight or
Oh,
queer?
Pan,
Yeah, that's what I think too.
knows he wants Wanda. Pan.
Yeah. I mean, he's computing all the possibilities.
All the time.
That is true. It makes sense.
And
that
those
he would be
possibilities lead to
pansexual.
a Nexus being that is Wanda Maximoff.
But I absolutely love Vision. I would marry him.
Right? Vision has bi-wife energy for sure.
Oh, he is the bi
No,
wife.
I don't think Wanda is. Yeah,
the bi-wife.
Maybe Wanda's the one with bi-wife energy.
Oh, yeah, I do think so. Because she has like enough crazy in her, which I support. But he's like, but babe, I still love you. But what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, 1000%. Okay, let me think of like one more that I think-
Naruto and Sasuke, is it a thing? Because I fully believe
Yeah.
that, like, for the amount of fuckery that Naruto deals with and
Go
that
up.
Sasuke does, I fully believe it's Sasunaru. I'm full Sasunaru.
I don't know anything about it, but what I ship is Baku-chan. Sorry. Deku-chan.
Yeah, I would also like to mention for those in the comments, this is just a game. None
Yeah.
of these are
Y'all are taking it a little
canonically at all.
seriously.
This is just our
Naruto alone.
very, very unbiased interpretation of the character.
No, bias. Sasunaru, hashtag for the win.
Yeah. Any more that we can think of? I can't think of any more right now. My brain is totally fried.
Orochimaru is here's the thing. Because I love we need more Alphabet Mafia villains. And I feel
Yeah.
like he was the first one that I saw. That I was like, Orochimaru don't give a fuck. Orochimaru is the first booty warrior I saw on TV.
Okay, one more that that is threefold. All of the Powerpuff Girls. Buttercup, Bubbles.
All of them.
What's the other one?
Their
Blossom,
their
yeah.
drag mother is
Movement.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Right?
full. That is, I
Yeah.
fully believe that. They fought him and they were like, oh,
Yeah.
heard. Buttercup's definitely at least, I think she's the
Buttercup's
baby
a
butch,
dom top.
but turns into
Yeah.
a very femdom.
Oh, 1000%. Comes off as like a total top, but ends up being like a total bottom.
Yeah. Oh, but Bubbles will forever be your soy baby. Like, I am the only baby.
Oh yeah, baby all the way.
I think Blossom's the bi queen who ends up dating a guy because it's just easier.
there's just a lot of them. Yeah, I fell into that trap myself.
It's a fun trap.
All right, folks, this was fun. I really just wanted to come and talk about Korosami, and I think we really accomplished that.
Justice for Korosami.
Yeah, gave you a little bit of history that was like very loose. What is next?
What's our next one?
Okay, so next we are going to be talking about pets and how pets saved us during quarantine.
Thank the Lord.
Oh, you want to talk about pets? My dog is so gay. Like, Azula is a fucking top. She only humps larger male dogs. That's it.
Fascinating. I love that.
Yeah, she plays with the girls. That's fun. But I'm like, oh my god, my
My
dog's
dog
a
is
top.
asexual. For sure. She
Well.
absolutely is.
If you want to know more next week,
Find
you
out our
should
pet
tune in.
sexualities.
Can we please do a quiz? This time on the Normies. Is your dog a gay?
I'll come with a PowerPoint.
These are reasons why.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so we will talk about pets. It's going to be a very wholesome podcast. We'll also talk about some weird shit like pets of Instagram. So, yeah, it's going to be fun.
Yay.
Yeah, thanks for coming and chatting with us and having a good time. I really enjoyed it. I hope you guys did too. It was nice hearing like what you guys took from it, because really I never thought there was no other way that people did not see Korosami. I was like that.
No,
It was
interesting.
so it's nice to hear that. And with all that representation, I'm gonna go research the Hays Code very depthly.
Be depressed.
Secret Girls Club.
The voice of
Okay,
God has
bye.
told us. Bye.
Get ready, cause it's about time for you to speak your mind. Super Secret Girls Club. Super Secret Girls Club. Super Secret Girls Club.
Thank you all so much for watching this week's episode of the Super Secret Girls Club. We'd like to give a special shout out to our super patrons, Michelle, Sakif, Clayton Davis, Exploring Dylan, Dane, Mr. Momus, and Joe Mags. Thanks again, and be sure to catch us live over on Twitch.